back. Another episode of Rogers Rules. Cam Broham, Andrew Rogers, and as an added bonus, you have my dog Molly,
doggy,
who has now escaped. But that's okay, and we hope we are your escape from today. Are you having a good day? I'm going to ask you that a lot. Are you having a good day? Any questions? That is a funny note from last show. I don't know if you missed it, and if you did, you should go back and listen, but the UCLA head football coach did not get off on the best foot. I don't know if he was even standing on his own 2 feet that day because he was not there in terms of that opening statement. But we're not here to talk about that again. We are here to give 3 nuggets before I let you go. The first one is the Olympics. The Olympics have been on TV now for what, Cam? A week?
About a week. 6 days, I guess. Started Friday.
So, yeah, that would make sense. Been on for almost a week. And my question to you is this, because I don't know if I have as much buy-in to this Olympics as I'd like, but are you an active fan? Are you a super fan? Are you a casual? I would consider myself a casual if I'm just it's on in the background for me, or I guess I'll watch this USA basketball game, but I'm not like actively waiting for somebody to swim or somebody to do their magic on the gymnastic mats. Like, yes, Simone Biles is there, who is one of the best gymnasts of all time, but I'm not like, oh my gosh, I have to make time to watch Simone Biles do her thing, or I have to make time to watch LeBron James come all the way back and beat a team they were supposed to win by 45, or I have to see Katie Ledecky swim and get 3rd place again to the Australian. I think she was Australian. She may have been from South America, but that's beside the point. I'm just not like all into the Olympics like I was when Michael Phelps was going for 8 gold medals.
Yeah, I'm similar. So, like, I knew Katie Ledecky was going to be there because I saw the hype on that, the pre-Olympic stuff, but I didn't know any of the rest of the Olympic swimmers. Like Katie Ledecky's the star, but then there's that men's 4x100, and that the anchor dude, can't remember his name off the top of my head right now, but he was the one. I remember that guy's name. And Snoop Dogg and his wife got to watch him win gold. That's cool stuff.
Snoop Dogg and the swimmer's wife.
That's what I mean. Oh, yeah. It sounded right when I said it. And also, I need a little bit of clarification on that.
Right.
Sure. Yeah. And his brand new baby.
Right. Oh, my goodness. What is his name? Okay, here we go. Snoop wife.
But that I didn't know anything about who was even on the team. Outside of the main stars.
Caleb Dressel.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So that dude, I remember him once I saw him. Like, oh yeah, I remember him from a couple 4 years ago, I guess. So but outside of the big stars of Simone Biles and the ones you've already named, I don't know who else is there or who else I would need to be paying attention to.
Well, I will tell you a few because there are former Huskers in the Olympics, Cam.
There's like 12 of them, isn't there?
There are about a dozen.
Yeah.
So
awesome.
There is about a dozen. Gosh, I did this on the last show. Is it is or are? What's the grammar there? There are about a dozen or there is about a dozen?
I think either one's acceptable.
Okay. Well,
I'm no, English major or anything, but I'll give you a pass.
All right. Thanks. We just talk for a living. Who knows? So you have a Nebraska gymnast in, and she is an alternate for Team Canada. I'm not even going to pretend to pronounce her name. I'm just not. So there, you can look her up. There is a Husker gymnast. As also there, Emma Spence. She is Team Canada as well. There's a trio. Let's see here. 3 former players all started the match for the volleyball. The Husker volleyball. Isn't Jordan Larson there?
Yeah, Jordan's out there.
So Jordan Larson is one of the names. I'm just scrolling through a list here. Team USA men's basketball may not have somebody physically playing, but former Husker Tyronn Lue is an assistant coach. Keisei Tominaga,
Oh, really?
sharpshooter. He did not make it very far. They fell to Germany in the opening round. They lost that game by about 20 points, but Keisei was there. Jack McVeigh. McVeigh is former basketball player, plays for Australia. I'm like kind of tilting my head here because I'm like also kind of trying to decipher what I'm reading in short form. But there's a bunch of Huskers at the Olympics, so there is some rooting interest there for those of you that are from Nebraska or beyond. I mean, you'll find people all over the U.S., whether it's in your home state, like there's people from Missouri there, or whether it's from Nebraska and you are cheering on some former Huskers. It's really cool to have that side of rooting interest, but still, does it move the needle for me? Personally, no. I'm not saying that I'm in the right when I say that, but I'm not really bought into the Olympics this year. And, I got started off on a bad foot when, and, this came with a lot of backlash, and my opinion's my opinion at the end of the day. But when they were doing the opening ceremony and they used certain individuals to represent the Last Supper scene, and that was kind of going viral. And no matter what anybody says, your belief is your belief, which is why I believe I can say my belief in terms of how I felt that was very wrong to do. Now, what was wrong about it in the end was they actually didn't depict what they were supposed to depict on TV. Like, I don't know if you saw, there were alternate images, Cam, but they were supposed to show like this blue figure on the table, which is like something to do with Greece. Like, I don't know. Well, they didn't on TV, and they showed something else, which is something that I just don't believe in. So because of that, I got turned off right away. And then it just was like, the Olympics are on. I mean, I watched a little bit of the table tennis over the weekend. I won't lie. I watched Katie Ledecky swim at my wife's high school reunion that was just on at a bar. So I watched her get third place there. But I don't know. It's just, I again, don't have the same feeling for the Olympics like I did when I knew that there was like an unattainable accolade that had the chance of being attained, which was Michael Phelps going for 8 gold medals.
Yeah.
And it's not,
I mean, I'm kind of with you on that. Not necessarily just because of the Last Supper stuff. I thought the opening ceremonies was pretty badass looking. If I can say that, I think I can.
I think you can, sure.
Like Celine Dion crushed it. Like, and she's had that issue with stiff person syndrome over the past few years, and she had to cancel tours, and that was her return. Like, that was pretty powerful in that way. But also, it's all about those weird sports, like the table tennis or whatever else.
And I just don't get into those sports.
Right. It's ones you can watch on ESPN 8 the Ocho, right? Anything that's there that is now at the Olympics, like, oh, cool, let's watch that. Obviously, volleyball is going to take home all kinds of accolades for me because I'm a big volleyball guy. But I mean, it's the ladies volleyball. The guys, I think they didn't do very good the other day. I guess 4 days ago or whatever it was. But the ladies were coming out swinging and they're having a good time. So I mean, I'm gonna love those volleyball games and those sports. But I don't know. Once it gets to track and field, I'm like, I kind of tune out.
Well, and unless they're going for the gold medal, I'm not really watching it. Right. Like, I'm not watching the buildup. If Team USA for any sport was playing for a gold medal, I'd be like, okay, now I have an interest in this because there's a chance of getting first place in X event. But if it's not a medal race or a medal game, I'm just like, okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I'm in the minority when I say that. And maybe Cam, like you said, I think you have a little more interest than I do. But yeah, I should have the Olympics on every day.
And I do.
And while we're doing this podcast, it's not even turned on.
No.
Like, it's not even turned on in the background for me.
I usually just get it on Peacock when I get home, just on demand, whatever I want to watch. Not necessarily have it on,
Now, granted, I like to have something on in the background when I cook. So maybe it will be the Olympics today, which, by the way, we're having chicken wings tonight, even though I should have had that on Monday because that was National Chicken Wing Day. Did you know that?
I did
you know
not
Monday
know
was
that.
National Chicken Wing Day? So I should have had those on Monday, but
You had pasta on Monday. What the heck was I doing?
dude, it's a big miss on our part.
Yeah.
We need it. We need from now on. I think your job is to look up what national holiday it is on said day, and then we will have to, if it's a food, we will have to eat it that day.
Well, it's funny is I actually have a tab that's saved that is that. I used to use it for radio show prep.
Well, here you go. Podcast prep.
National Day. Yeah.
So from now on, your job is that. And also to make sure the show runs because I don't know how to do that. And that's why Cam is probably the most important figure on this show. And I'm just the talking head.
Without you, there would be no. It would just be me sitting here.
Without you, this show would not be on the stream, would not be shown right now. I mean, that's why Cam and I are the perfect team. We are that Olympic team that you want to watch every midday during the middle portions of your week on Tuesday and Thursday. So let us know in the comments. Are you a super fan, an active fan, a casual, or are you just not a fan at all? Which I feel like everybody should be a fan of the Olympics in some way, shape, or form because it doesn't happen every day. So that's why I will borderline myself between casual and active, but probably sit more in casual just because I need some sort of rooting interest. And my rooting interest nowadays, I mean, you're catching me during baseball season. You're catching me leading up to Nebraska football. That has my overall interest right now. But yes, the Olympics are happening. You should watch it. I should watch it more. I mean, am I really Team USA sitting over here? I need to be better. I'll do better. Don't worry.
Better.
Let's transition. That was Nugget 1 of today's show. Nugget 2. Where do I want to go with this? Do I want to start here? Let's start here because this is Cam's neighborhood. So Jordan Love just got a new contract. Jordan Love, the quarterback for the Packers, who I don't really know is worth the amount of money that he got, but that could be argued in a way because they are building for a future. So I want to break this down for you. Jordan Love is now tied for the highest paid quarterback in all of football. He's tied for first with 3 people. Okay. Do you think you could guess the 3 people that are tied for first or the 2 others that are tied with Jordan Love just based on your overall football knowledge?
I mean, I know we already talked about it a little bit, but I would definitely throw Mahomes in that mix.
So Mahomes is not.
He's not, but he should be. But
he absolutely should be. I mean, any quarterback that's won you 2 straight Super Bowls. I mean, I get it because over each year, pay changes because somebody wants to be paid more than the next person and the next person. So it's just a gradual thing. So I totally get it. For the longest time.
I would throw a Dak Prescott in there just because I know the Cowboys have a boatload of money. So I'm just
Dak Prescott is, and I'm scrolling,
and maybe even not Kyler Murray.
Dak Prescott is tied for 13th. He's $40 million a year.
Okay. I don't even know. I couldn't even venture a guess. Who would be up there with Jordan?
So one is somebody you know very well. Somebody that's been on your fantasy team multiple times.
Oh, my man Burrow.
Your man Joe Burrow.
Jeez.
He makes $55 million, and he's probably the only one that makes sense here for somebody that hasn't won a Super Bowl.
Yeah. I guess I could throw Josh Allen in the mix on that one too. He's got to be up there too, right?
Oddly enough, Josh Allen is 12th on this list at $43 million.
So who's the other one that's tied?
Would you believe me if I told you Trevor Lawrence? Trevor Lawrence gets paid $275 million over 5 years' time.
Wow.
Jordan Love over 4 years got his contract at $220 million, 160 guaranteed.
Wowzers.
Also, though, Trevor Lawrence, he may be making less guaranteed money than Burrow, which, I mean, is a whopping $200 million. That's what Burrow's guaranteed.
Wow.
It's actually $219 million if you really break it all down.
Wow.
So, yeah, a lot of money going to quarterbacks that don't win Super Bowls. That, I don't know if they deserve that sort of money. So I pulled up Jordan Love's stats for you.
Yeah.
Jordan Love's been in the league since 2021.
And he played all last season, but he only played probably 3 or 4 other games outside of that, right?
Correct. In 2022 and 2021, he didn't play a lot of football. So we are only going to take him for what we saw out of last season, which wasn't that bad, right? He was 7th in passing, 4,100 yards, 32 touchdowns. That was second, and tied for 104th in interceptions, which is also really good, at 11 with a QBR of 62. So he did himself pretty well, right? Being able to do that. He made the playoffs.
Yeah, I was going to say, I thought they made the playoffs. So at least he was doing something.
Right?
You know?
The Green Bay Packers made the playoffs. But in 1 year's time, are you paying him the most money out of any quarterback in football? Are you guaranteeing you're going to get that or better out of Jordan Love every season? I don't know if I'm on board with that, but I know there are people that are on that train, which is why I said at the very beginning, it could be argued based on what we saw out of him last year and how the Green Bay Packers fared throughout the season.
And he spent all that time behind Andrew Rodgers. So,
yep, Andrew Rodgers.
Oh, you're Andrew Rodgers, Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, nope. He spent all that time behind me.
Every time
we touch, I get this feeling.
Aaron Rodgers, yeah,
Aaron Rodgers, and it was kind of like the Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers to Jordan Love thing, right?
Yeah.
I think Green Bay does a very good job of grooming their quarterbacks. So last season, it was a record of 9-8 and a loss in the divisional round of the playoffs to the 49ers. They only lost by 3, and that was a close game for Brock Purdy and company. But they did beat the Cowboys 48-32 in that game. But a 9-8 season, a loss in the divisional round of the playoffs gets you $55 million. Like, I'm not on board with that yet. I don't think he should be making the money he is.
I would.
I mean, great on him and his agent for negotiating that price, but I don't see how you are able to get that sort of money. Now let's look at Trevor Lawrence, who signed a 5-year, $275 million with the deal with the Jaguars in June. Okay? So Trevor Lawrence, let's pull up his stats here.
He didn't do very well last season, as I recall.
I mean, Trevor Lawrence, I've been on the bus train for him. Bust is what I said.
Yeah.
B-U-S-T.
He has the ability to do it, but he just didn't do it last year.
Oh, and I've actively been wrong on Trevor Lawrence, and there's no doubt that he deserves to make a good amount of money because he came into the league in 2021 and all he's been doing is progressing. He went from 3,600 yards passing to 4,100 to just over 4,000 last year, but he missed a game last season. So if we're really taking that into consideration, he probably would have been more than what he was. His rushing numbers have been sort of the same. His interception numbers have been relatively average. He did increase by 6 from 2022. His QBR remained the same last season. He was tied for 17th in the league. Although this is where I don't really vibe with it because his touchdown numbers were pretty low. He had 21, which was tied for 15th. That's 4 less than he did in 2022. So I just haven't really been all in on Trevor Lawrence, and because I just don't see anything overly special about him in the league. And mind you, I'm very flawed in my reasoning because I'm a big fantasy player. And if you don't perform to a certain standard in fantasy, you fall down the list just for me entirely. Like Kirk Cousins is Mr. Average. He was Dr. Average. You knew what you were going to get out of him, but I always ended up with him as my fantasy quarterback. And all I ever saw were 220 yards and a touchdown. Like, that's what you get out of a guy like Kirk Cousins. Could he have thrown 3 touchdowns in a game? Sure. But I always looked at him as somebody that wasn't very like valued in my eyes because he wasn't performing the way I needed him to perform in terms of fantasy. I know my reasoning is flawed. This is just how I look at everything. So that's when I look at a guy like Trevor Lawrence and think, tied for 15th in the league, I can do a lot better a lot of other places. So for him to be tied for first, and the Jaguars, so the Jacksonville Jaguars seasons since he came into the league, and they've only been a team since 1995.
Yep.
So it's not far to scroll. He was 3-14 in his first year. That was Urban Meyer. Yikes. Then 2022, they went 9-8. They won the wild card, lost in the divisional playoffs. Sound familiar, Cam? And the last year, they went 9-8 and missed the playoffs. And he gets a huge contract in June?
Doesn't seem right.
I'm just not on board with that. So it's kind of weird to see stuff like that. But again, and I know how this works. Every quarterback, when it's their time to shine, when it's their time to get paid, they will get paid more money than the next guy. But it doesn't make a lot of sense that the guy that won back-to-back Super Bowls is not 4th on this list, not 5th on this list, not 6th, not 7th, not 8th, not 9th, not 10th, not 11th, but he's tied for 11th.
Tied for 11th. That's wild.
So he could go 11 or 12 on this list.
But didn't he just restructure his deal last year?
He did.
I know you probably have an opportunity to do it now, but he just got that $10 million pay raise or whatever it was last year when he restructured his deal and bought half of the Royals or whatever he did.
Yeah, he owns Kansas City.
He owns Kansas City.
He always will own Kansas City.
Yeah.
He inked the largest sports contract at the time in 2020. He signed a 10-year, $450 million contract. That's $45 million a year. I don't know about that restructuring as much as maybe you do because I don't follow Patrick Mahomes to a T.
No, that you just right there what you said was the restructuring.
Oh, okay. So 2020.
It was a 10-year extension with that pay boost.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's I was going to say, I'm like, maybe I'm not missing something. And Cam saw something that I didn't see.
Oh, and that was after the first Super Bowl win. And like, all right, let's do another one. You know, that whole thing. So
right. So
it was definitely deserved because he won a Super Bowl. So it's like, yeah, cool, pay the man.
And now he's won 2 more.
Now he's won 2 more. So it's one of those you're gonna show up and do the thing, get your
but
money?
I'll tell you, with
show up and get your money.
I'll tell you, man, with absolute class, this is what Mahomes said. When I restructured, kind of moving money around the last time, we talked about a certain year when we were going to go back and do it again. It's about having that plan, that constant communication, and we have that here. I'm happy to see guys going out and getting as much money as possible. That's awesome for the sport. We have a great communication system where I feel we've done the best with what we can do. I mean, that's just classic Mahomes taking that humble approach. But what I also thought was kind of cool is because of the amount of money he gets paid, then you can kind of go outsource a little bit. And
he's got endorsement deals like crazy. So he's going to make some money there too.
Right. But you can go get talent and build it around him.
Yeah.
So there is that and that piece. And that's what they're communicating in Kansas City too. Patrick Mahomes would rather win Super Bowls than just ultimately get paid.
Yeah. And I think that's what Tom Brady did too, was he took a big pay cut so they could buy better players to put around him. So, I mean, it's a great strategy as a leader of the team. Like, that's great.
And it's a great strategy for the face of the NFL in both cases, Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes, to do that because you are, as Caitlin Clark is of the WNBA or Angel Reese, you are going to get paid in other avenues.
Right. Yeah.
You're going to make a ton of money elsewhere. So it's not end all be all. And that's another reason why, and I was talking to my dad about this because, when Caitlin Clark was getting drafted, she had the chance to make millions to go play in like Dave Portnoy's 3-on-3 league or Ice Cube's league.
Yeah,
like she could have made $5 or $10 million, but she went to the WNBA. Why? Because she loves the sport. And that was like her dream as a young girl, was to play in the WNBA. And what has she done by doing so? She has totally opened the gates, the floodgates to coverage and everything else that comes with finally being nationally recognized. Like the WNBA wasn't before Caitlin Clark. And Angel Reese can play into that hand too, but it's mostly Caitlin Clark.
Yeah, and seeing games on TV,
this whole thing.
That's a whole other thing too. Like it'd be hard pressed 2-3 years ago to find a WNBA game on TV, and now it's every other channel. You know, like I get notifications that they're coming up. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's awesome. I think it's amazing.
So again, Caitlin Clark doesn't get paid a lot of money being in this league, but she makes a lot of money elsewhere. And yes, could she be losing out on $2 or $3 million early on? Sure. But she probably found a way to make that up overnight, doing something with her shoe company or whatever it is. I mean, people will pay that woman anything to represent their brand. Because like Patrick Mahomes, a class act, an overall class act. So I think it's really funny that you can look at a list like this and think, wow, I'm going to read these to you up and down from start to finish, but think, wow, Patrick Mahomes is tied for 11th. Joe Burrow, Jordan Love, and Trevor Lawrence tied for first. So now you got to skip to the fourth highest paid quarterback because that only makes sense. Tua Tagovailoa makes $53.1 million. Tua also a guy that has a lot of promise, but is somebody that just hasn't been able to get it done.
Yeah, they were looking good last year.
Jared Goff, $53 million. Talk about a guy that went to a Super Bowl and turned his entire career around after he got traded for basically chump change. The Rams just willingly let him go to get a stab at Matthew Stafford. Now, it paid off in the long run because they won a Super Bowl, but the Rams will be rebuilding for years to come. Yeah. Justin Herbert is sixth on this list at $52.5 million. Lamar Jackson, $52 million. Jalen Hurts, $51 million. Kyler Murray, the Arizona Cardinals quarterback, $46.1 million. What has Kyler Murray done since coming into the league other than sit on the bench and try to rehab his injury? Not very much. Deshaun Watson, remember when he got that giant deal from the Browns and then all of the allegations came out about sexual assault and things like that, and the Browns somehow escaped because Deshaun Watson looks to be serviceable while that defense is just absolutely elite. You will probably see the Browns in the playoffs this season. He's at 10. Kirk Cousins just got $45 million from the Falcons. And then, of course, Patrick Mahomes also tied for 11th. Josh Allen, Dak Prescott coming in right behind. Daniel Jones, Matt Stafford tied for 13th with Dak Prescott. You go further down the list and you start getting into names that are probably deserving to be further down the list. But that is where we're at today. So big contracts, and it's very surprising to hear names like Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes that low down the list. But also, like we talked about, they had their time, right? They came into the league around the same time. I think it was a year apart, if I'm remembering correctly. And so that's why you see guys like the former Heisman winner. Did Trevor Lawrence win the Heisman? I was saying Joe Burrow, but now I wanted to double check on Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah.
I don't think so. Who won Heisman winners? We got to date ourselves here.
Jalen Hurts was in there.
Desmond. I almost said Desmond Howard, and that was so long ago. I don't even know why that name was on my mind.
Last century.
Hey, relax over there, Cam. Relax.
Hey, I'm cool, man.
Desmond Howard won the Heisman Trophy. I don't think it was last century, right?
Was it in the 90s?
Wasn't Desmond Howard the last guy on NCAA football? Maybe that's what I'm thinking.
Oh, he was. Yeah, he was the cover, wasn't he?
Yeah, so that because we had talked about that just about a week ago. That's why.
These are things I learned from this show.
There you go. Yeah, you learn something new every day. So it went Jaden Daniels, Caleb Williams, Bryce Young, Devontae Smith, Joe Burrow, Kyler Murray, Baker Mayfield, Lamar Jackson, and so forth. So no, Trevor Lawrence did not. So only one former winner.
Right? He was in the running.
Yeah. I mean, the number one overall pick in the NFL draft, somebody that is coming off of a national championship, if I'm remembering correctly. Gosh, Clemson was in so many of those games. Maybe he didn't win that year though. But he was uber talented. Yeah. So there you have it. That is the list of highest paid quarterbacks. And again, a little bit shocking that is what you see. That's where the cards fall, if I may say. So the last point, the last nugget that we wanted to get to on this show was the MLB trade deadline. And I really just wanted to save this point for last. And I'm sitting crisscross applesauce now because I feel like a kid listening to a story. I really wanted to save this point for last because the Cardinals, for like the 100th year in a row, have just stolen players from teams. St. Louis Cardinals. That's my team. I just have to say it right now. So on Monday, I think it was, Cam, the Cardinals made a three-way deal with the Dodgers and the White Sox. And in that trade, the Cardinals acquired Eric Fetty, who was a pitcher from the White Sox, and Tommy Pham. They got rid of, they let go of Tommy Edman, who is a great player. Gold Glove winner, utility infielder, sends him off to the Dodgers. When you see Eric Fetty, too, coming in on a trade, which was the Cardinals' biggest need, by the way, is starting pitching. When you see a guy like him come in, sub-3 ERA, really solid pitcher, solid arm, another year of control, so you know you're not just using him as a rental this year, but you know you have him for next year too. When you get a guy like that, you're like, man, what did we have to give up? Like, especially after, like with Tommy Edman, like what other prospects had to go in this deal? And then I started seeing more information come out. The Dodgers got rid of everybody to get the players that they got. And you know what? Just for the purpose of this whole thought, I need to look up the trade one more time because there were a lot of pieces in it and a lot of prospects on the move. And I want to make sure I nail down exactly who went somewhere and who arrived at said location. So in this deal, the Dodgers get Tommy Edman, who hasn't played this season, by the way, because of off-season wrist surgery and a sprained ankle. I mean, this dude just couldn't stay on the field. Michael Kopech, a struggling reliever that was in the White Sox system. And the White Sox, so that's who the Dodgers got, right? Two bigger names in Edman and Kopech, but those are guys that could possibly help you win a World Series this year. The Cardinals, like I said, got Fetty and Tommy Pham. And I think they also got either like a player to be named later or cash considerations from the Dodgers, which is, for those that don't know, cash is cash, just money to use and scatter around your organization. So you please. That's what they name at a later date, Cam. And the Dodgers gave up to the White Sox Miguel Vargas, who struggled this season, and two prospects, Alexander Albertus and Gerald Perez, both top 25 prospects in the Dodgers system, and both that are, I mean, infants. These guys are children. They're like 19. Both are either 19 or one of them's 21 and one of them's 19. These guys are young. So you won't see these guys in Major League Baseball until like 2027. They're in A-ball right now. So the White Sox are really, really rebuilding. Like they are buying into way in the future versus right now. And the White Sox had some really good pieces. I mean, Garrett Crochet was a name that got tossed around a little bit. They could have gotten a lot for him, but they chose to hold on to that guy. I say all that to say thank you to the White Sox because Eric Fetty, who is a really good pitcher and somebody that the Cardinals desperately needed, I say thank you for just giving him up for, your next fast food meal. The Cardinals didn't have to give up hardly anything to get him and depth in the outfield and Tommy Pham, who can suffice, a former Cardinal who's coming back home. But the Cardinals are in contention right now to make the playoffs. They've currently secured a wild card spot. Now, the Cardinals haven't been what they were when they had won like 25 out of the last 37 games. I mean, especially after that National Series. I cannot believe the Cardinals did not take 2 out of 3. But when I pull up the MLB standings and we look at where teams are currently in the playoff race, in the NL specifically, the Cardinals are 6 games back from the Brewers, which pretty good. right? A lot of time left, just coming off the All-Star break. But the Cardinals are also a team that sit nice and pretty in the wild card standings, where they're only now a game back. So because of that 2 out of 3 loss to the Nationals, they're now borderline once again, but they're still only a game back of the New York Mets for that wild card spot. A good starting pitcher goes a long way. And that's, I've been saying it for almost a month now. I remember talking about what the Cardinals' biggest needs were, because I don't know, Cam, if you remember, but when I was given some time back working at that camp, that summer camp, they were asking me about the Cardinals and what their biggest need was, and couldn't believe, one of the guys there couldn't believe that I said starting pitching without hesitation. Now, there was another guy there that jumped right on board, but I thought a power bat is what they needed, somebody with a little bit of average, but mostly I thought they needed starting pitching, because I felt that their bullpen was built pretty strongly. They didn't have to give up a bullpen arm to get a pretty good starting pitcher. Talk about a good acquisition for the Cardinals this trade deadline, and many more major acquisition for teams that have come out now that the deadline is here. It's done. It's over. July 1st. Thank you. Now we can watch baseball once again and see guys in different uniforms. I mean, when the Yankees got Jazz Chisholm just the other day, I was like, oh my gosh, what an addition that was. The Yankees have been buyers, and I like when my team, this is a personal thing, but I like when my team is not a seller and they are also a buyer. So just a nice little third nugget there. And just, I needed to voice my appreciation for the Chicago White Sox and handing over Eric Fetty for, like I said, their next $10.99 meal at Raising Cane's. No sponsor yet.
No sponsor. Also,
Yes.
if you're going to go out and have something today to celebrate the day, today is National Raspberry Cream Pie Day.
Raspberry cream pie. That doesn't sound like anything that I'd ever order.
But it's delicious. If you've never had it, you should try it.
Have you had it?
I've had it. I've had all the pies.
Where do you get something like that? Or do you bake it yourself?
A Village Inn, I think you could get there. Or
dude, Village Inn, I mean, low-key slaps. And I'm really sad that it's like not on the upward trajectory anymore, because the last time I was there, they were really struggling with servers and there weren't a lot of pies baked either. I'm like, oh no, is Village Inn going out of order?
There's been a couple, at least here in Omaha, they've closed down recently.
What about the one right next to the office? Is that one still in?
That one rebranded.
Did it really?
Rocking. Yeah. It's like, they had that orange sign with the black letters on it. So now it's a white sign with black letters on it. And they kind of, I think they went minimalist on the whole thing. So like the color pops that are in the, like on the wallpaper and stuff, that's the only color. Everything else is just black and white.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'll be back next week. And before we head over to the Pinnacle Bank Championship, Cam, you and me, Village Inn.
I'm down, dude. Let's go smash.
I will definitely smash something before those golfers start smashing balls.
That's right.
And those fans smashing beers on hole 17 with the Hurrdat Sports crew.
Hole 17.
Well, that's backwards. The way to do it. It is backwards, but that's
gang
okay.
signs all day.
Yeah, you know what? It's what we do here on Rogers Rules. We decide what we do on the show, and that's that. Thanks for joining us. We appreciate you always just giving us this little half hour to an hour during your lunch period, and go back. Hopefully we sparked some water cooler talk for you and your buddies, and join us next week. Yes, I will be back in Omaha. 1 day, 2 days, carry the 2, 3 days, 4 days, all 4 days of the Pinnacle Bank Championship. That's right. So come over to the Hurrdat Sports tent, say hi. We're going to be shooting a lot of content down there, not only with golfers, but with a lot of the fans as well. And we do things differently when we are at the Pinnacle Bank Championship at the club at Indian Creek. It's going to be fun. Imagine the Waste Management Open, hole 16. That's hole 17 over at Indian Creek. Thanks for joining us once again. We will see you next week.